gonna happen. I'm bigger than you.
I gotta come out that way.
All right, I'll probably have to follow you.
Thank you.
We're making it work. What if I do it from here? Would it be horrible?
You want to do it from there?
What's the angle like?
Looking up the other way though. Here, let me just get up.
All right.
Go ahead. I should still be able to control it from this side a little bit.
If you can stay there, I feel better.
Yeah, we go up there. Watch that other wall.
If I can stay here.
Okay.
How's his eye line? Look at me, Gary, for 1 sec. Does that look good?
Yeah.
Is that cool?
This here, so I can see.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we're good to go.
All right.
You rolling?
Good? You happy? Everyone good?
It's rolling, right?
How tall are you?
I'm 6'6", 6'6". Yeah.
You're massive.
It's rolling,
Big
right?
guy. You tell me.
I've always wanted to be taller.
Yeah. Well, you're doing quite all right.
5'8" and a quarter.
Yeah.
That's the best I ever did.
That's a good rock star height. I think that's what Michael Stipe said on stage. He's 5'8" on a good day. Good. All right. So that was a pleasure hearing you play those songs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is it weird playing that stuff in the morning? To me, it's always seemed like great evening
Yes,
evening music.
It is very weird playing
Yeah.
it in the morning. Yeah, because we're touring. Yeah, we're going to bed quite late, and so we're getting up quite late. So this morning was a bit of a shock. We did San Francisco last night, and then we drove down to the night. So an 8 o'clock call, way too early for what we used to. But it's good though. It all feels a bit different early on, but it's good. I was relieved it went well. We're normally rubbish when we do like a radio session or something. We nearly always make loads of mistakes, and I dread it, but it went well today.
Yeah, you guys sounded great.
Oh, thank you.
Talk about, I know these are some delayed shows due to the volcano and everything that was going on back in, was it the spring or whatever that was? What's it like now to finally be doing this, and what the reaction must be great from the fans, and it must be fun.
It's a lot better than I expected, I have to say. We were going to do Coachella in April, and added on to that we were going to do a San Francisco show and a Los Angeles show, and they were going to be shows where we played this old Pleasure Principle album, and that all got messed about obviously because of the volcano. So we rescheduled those shows, and there was a lot more interest in it than before, and so it's ended up being like a 3-week tour, which is great for me because I love touring here. And then the first half of the show is Pleasure Principle, which is all obviously old songs, and then the second half is primarily newer stuff, including some brand new songs. And again, I wasn't sure how that was going to work. Were people going to come out to see just the old stuff and hate the new stuff, because it is quite different, or vice versa? With new people coming along that have got into me more recently, through the 9 Inch Nails connection and so on, and hate the beginning of it. So I was really nervous when it kicked off, but it's been great. It's been really, really good, and the show builds and builds, and the reaction to the new stuff has been absolutely fantastic, and the reaction to the old stuff has been equally fantastic. And so I've been very anti-retro for most of my latter career, and I'm beginning to wonder whether I've been a little bit too hard-nosed about it, because here anyway, that there seems to be a real kind of acceptance of it. Where at home, if you sort of wallow in nostalgia for too long, then you're written off. And I actually agree with that. I think that's the right way to go. I think you're only as good as your next album, not the one you made 30 years ago. So it's not something that I want to do on a regular basis, but having done it, it's been really good fun.
You know that you're doing, because you have been about looking forward on all your last bunch of records, and you've been making some great music throughout the years for people that maybe haven't listened to what you've been up to. But when you're out there on the stage and you are doing the old stuff, what kind of things go through your heart and mind when you're playing the old songs now, some of which you haven't played?
Well, I for a long time, the Pleasure Principle was an album, for example, I just didn't listen to it for a long, long time, because I am always more interested in what I'm doing tomorrow than what I did yesterday. So it was only when these shows are coming up I started to listen to it a lot more. And the thing that really made a difference to me was last year I did some work with Trent Reznor, with 9 Inch Nails on their goodbye shows here. And every night I would be introduced, and Trent would be talking about how important the Pleasure Principle album was to early 9 Inch Nails. And I would listen at the side of the stage to that, and it just made me think, if someone like that, who I admire enormously, is saying that kind of thing about pleasure principle, then maybe I should be a bit kinder towards it as well. So I just started to listen to it again, and I learned to kind of like it again in a way that I hadn't for the last 30 years, and have a certain amount of respect for it. And I just realised that it is actually quite a quirky little album, and take it back 30 years, it must have seemed quite different in its day, and so I've become proud of it in a way that I wasn't before. And I don't know if Trent knows that or not, but you know, a large part of doing it here and having the confidence to do it was because of what he said.
You must also be conscious of the fact that a lot of artists have obviously been inspired by your music and by that album over the years. I don't know how much of that you've heard, how much of that you haven't wanted to pay attention to, but so much of what you've done early on has influenced so many artists.
Yeah.
So what's that like? Has that influenced what you do now? How much do you take that stuff in?
I love it. It's, you know, it's very, very flattering, and I'm very, very proud of how many people have done cover versions of it and samples. You know, and it has been a lot of people, and not just from electronic music, from a wide range of genres, which obviously makes me even more proud. I think from a songwriting point of view, it's a real pat on the back. You know, and I am over the moon with it. I'm grateful for it. A certain amount of pressure comes with it, you know, because if you have a reputation for doing something that's sort of innovative or influential, then you're kind of expected to do it again and again, which I would love to do. It would be lovely if in 30 years' time, if I'm still alive, or 80 odd, it would be lovely to think that people were saying that about what I'm doing now, again, you know, as an ongoing thing. So it's not something that I sit back and think, well, I've done that, I can just rest and be happy now. I will continue to try to do that with every album that I make. But in the meantime, it's lovely that it's being said about that stuff now.
At the time, did you know how special your music was at the time? I remember listening to that stuff for the first time, and it blew me away like it did a lot of people. It sounded so fresh and so new and so different. Were you conscious of just how cool that was and kind of groundbreaking then?
Not as aware. You know, I was aware that we were doing something quite new and different. Almost by default, really, because we were using synthesizers at a time when very few people had, and we were making pop music with them at a time where nobody had, really. You know, it had been either grandiose kind of things or very craftworky, you know, which I liked. I liked all of it, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So no, really, I was just in the studio, just trying to sing the right notes and you know, play it. We didn't have, you know, correction and quantizing and all that sort of stuff. And you played it properly, or it was wrong. So I was just trying to get it right, really. You know, I thought it was a bit different to what was around at the time, but I had no idea that it would become what it had become, and it would have the influence that it's had. That's an incredibly lovely surprise to happen later in the career.
You mentioned you're all about tomorrow. What's Gary Numan 2011? Where are you tomorrow? Where are you now? This is a fun look back, but you're still moving forward.
Yeah,
kind of put into words where you are now.
When I get back, there's an album called Splinter, which is a follow-up proper to my last studio album called Jagged. That's the most important project now. I need to get that finished as soon as possible. But it's turning out to be a very heavy, very industrial, aggressive kind of record. So it's not commercial at all. So as a career move, it's probably a shining mistake, like lots of mine have been. But musically, I've lost interest really in all this sort of career and radio play type plot that some people seem to follow. I tried that for a while and I was really bad at it. Did a dreadful job of that. So for the last sort of, I guess, 15, 18 years even, I just make albums that I want to make, and I hope they do well, but I just make albums that I want to make. But I am aware that they are very heavy and that they're probably not going to get radio play and so on and so on. So it's a clear decision to make the music that I'm making. It's not an attempt for fame and fortune at all. Because as I say, I tried all that and it was a disaster. And I was really unhappy. I didn't like what I was doing, and I felt very unsatisfied with the whole thing. The last 3 albums that I've made, albeit large gaps in between them, I've been really happy with and really proud of, and I would love to carry on that way. And if they're successful, fantastic. But I'm not expecting anything great from them. I just want to love what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Where's that love coming from at this point in your career to make even heavier music and to get even harder and darker? Where's that inside you to have that kind of...
Well, funny enough, my actual life is very settled and very happy. You know, I've been married forever. I've got 3 children. You know, I've got the house in the country, the whole thing. Got all that. But from a musical point of view, I write the music that I want to hear, and there's not a lot of it about at the minute. I don't hear many things that really blow me away anymore. So I kind of make my own music to listen to. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, really, but that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm writing the sort of things that I would like to go and see bands play, and I'm self-fulfilling in that way.
At the center of it all, even with all the talk of the industrial sound and the keyboards and all that, it's still your voice. Your voice is still there, kind of front and center, and it still sounds great. I mean, you just kind of talk about just kind of your own kind of lifelong career with your voice, and it's very unique. And everyone, when you hear a song, you know it's a Gary Numan song.
Yeah, I've never liked it that much, actually. In fact, in what I call my middle years period, I used to get into a lot of trouble with the record company because I would mix it really low, and have lots of like backing singers around who I'd mix really high. I've always been really not embarrassed by it, but I'm not overly pleased with it. But I do recognise that it has a distinctive sound. So it's a double-edged sword, really. You know, I'm never going to be the greatest singer in the world, but I've learnt to accept and kind of be happy with what I've got. But I wish I was a really good singer. I envy people that have this effortless range and power. You know, I do my own little thing. As I've got older, it's got slightly better, slightly deeper and more around, I guess. But overall, if I was given a choice, I'd probably choose to have a different voice than the one I've got. So I'm kind of gratefully stuck with it, if that makes any sense.
Well, it's been working for you.
It has. I can't argue with that. But I wonder if something else would have worked better.
Yeah, well. You look great. Talk about you were at the start of all the video revolution back at the very beginning. You were making videos right at the start of all that, and all your concerts and things were taped. And I've let everyone know with YouTube can watch all your old Two Boy Army shows and things like that you did. What's it like to always be putting that forward and you're still looking great and taking care of yourself? Is that visual image still a big part of your show? And
I think less so than it used to be. I was very image based to begin with, and I think that had a lot to do with me, you know, sort of having some success at various points. But as I've got older, it's become more generic. You know, it's not a specific image for a specific album. It's just a general look now. But as far as getting old is concerned, it's an ongoing worry, really. You know, I think that there's a point where you start to look too old for the things that you're singing about. You know, an angry old man just looks silly, and I'm constantly watching it to see if I'm aging okay and if I can still perform and project the songs in a way that is credible. But I am aware of it, and there will come a time when I'm going to look too old, I think, to do it, and it's getting closer.
Well, that 30-year mark for the new record. We'll have that conversation.
Well, I'm 53 next birthday, so you know it will soon. It's going to catch up with me, and I'll have to think again. You know, maybe start singing ballads or something. I don't know what I'm going to do then. But at the moment, I'm sort of hanging on. So,
is there you keep yourself isolated, or is there a community of artists that have been kicking around as long as you have and still have success and maybe touring some of the records? Do you have a camaraderie with people that maybe started up when you did in that same scene, or the certain people you still?
I have a respect for them. I don't know everyone. You know, there's a few people that are doing things around now that that have been around as long as I have. That I'm not particularly a fan of the music, but actually no. I don't have a large circle of friends within the music business. Alan Wilder from Depeche Mode is a good friend, and Wayne Hussey from The Mission. You know, people that have been around my sort of time. But equally, I have sort of friends from newer bands that I work with. But I don't have a massive circle of sort of musical show-busy friends, really. Not that many. I do. I think that, you know, as I say, I've got a family, and I live well out of the city, back at home. So I'm not really in that sort of swing of things, really. I go into town once in a while to watch a gig and come back out again. So not really. I'm not reclusive in any way, but I kind of keep myself to myself more by location and geography than any other reason. I'm not trying to cut myself off at all. It's quite nice to talk to other musos from time to time.
And at the heart of this, what keeps music exciting for you? Why do you keep doing this day to day? You can be living off some Cars residuals and not. What keeps it all to want to keep creating?
Well, I think because I'm obviously heavily involved in the electronic music, it is progressing constantly, almost daily. There's new software coming out and new ways of doing things, and I'm a bit geeky like that, so I love that. You know, a new bit of software will come along, and I have periods where I get a little bit out of the loop with it. You know, summer holidays, for example. But generally speaking, I actually love it. So a new piece of equipment will come along, and there's a whole range of new sounds and new possibilities with it, and so it's just easy to stay interested. I think that question would be really, if you was to aim that at a guitar-based band, for example, I wouldn't know how to answer that, because how can you stay interested playing the same thing with the same sounds, more or less, year after year? But I'm lucky, we don't have that problem. You know, every year there's 1,001 new sounds for us to develop and build into songs and keep moving forward. And it's that bit that's important, this moving forward all the time, making this album sound different to the one before and the one before, constantly trying to come up with new sounds and new ways of doing things. I'm in exactly the right kind of music for that, because we are fed from the manufacturers new things all the time. So again, it makes it easy for us, I think, to keep progressing.
And lastly, what would you tell this guy now?
Him?
If you had the chance to.
I'd tell him to just lighten up a bit. You know, it's not quite as important as he. This album went to. This is the second album in the UK that went to #1 in 1 year, and 2 singles #1 back to back, and I was so worried about what to do next. I never actually took time to enjoy the moment. As soon as it went to #1, I started to not panic, but worry and fret. Now what? Now what? What do you do next? You know, what about the image? Are you going to check? Blah blah. You know, 1,000 things. I never just thought, this is so cool. What a brilliant thing to be living through. I never did that, and so by the time I'd kind of grown up enough to realise how amazing a thing it was. It was kind of already on the way out. And then the long battle started, you know, the last 30 years of up and down, and good bits and bad bits. And when there's been good bits since, I've really enjoyed it. So I would tell him to just stop, just enjoy the moment, because it's all going to work out okay. You know, just enjoy the moment and don't worry too much. I worry too much. Used to.
Very good. Well, it all seemed to work out just fine.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, thank you.
Thank you very
well
much.
Well done. Very nice.
Junior closer to that. So
Yeah, we don't.
that's against the. Or have him hold it first.
You mind just holding it for 1 sec?
Right by your.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that okay? I think.
Tilt it down.
Hey, Claire.
Yeah, right there, perfect. Let me just focus on it. How's that look right there? All right. Look okay there. A little louder. Okay, we got it.
Very good.
You need to get you the DVD.
Yes.